This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast where we talk about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. I'm Marianne Manso, a nurse practitioner, and I use my 43 years of nursing experience to help you understand what happens at the end of life.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete, an actor in New York City, here to ask the questions that you may have. We are here because we believe that the more you know, the better prepared you are in making difficult decisions.
So please relax, get yourself a beverage, something to eat, maybe some tea and pie. And thank you, pie. And thank you for spending the next hour with Charlie and me. In the first half, we have our recipe of the week from Charlie. In the second half, I'm going to be talking about hope as part of our Last Hours of Living series. And in our third half, Charlie reports about white wolves. So, Charlie, where are you taking us for our recipe this week?
We're going to the Central Asian country of Kyrgyzstan, where honoring the dead involves frying balls of dough into puffy nuggets.
Frying balls? Are you worried?
No. No, not at all. Into puff.
You know, we at least amuse each other,
yes,
you know that, right?
No one else, and just amuse each other, yes. Into puffy nuggets known as borsok. The bread is a simple mixture of flour, water, salt, sugar, butter, and yeast that sizzles in oil. But the ritual surrounding its presentation is far more important than flavor or flair. While some foods on this list are meant to nourish the living, the ritual of preparing and eating borsok is meant to honor and feed the deceased. Some believe that as women fry the dough in a kazan, a wok-like frying pan, the resulting smoke carries the cook's prayers to heaven and appeases the spirits of the dead. According to the BBC, the name for the ritual of cooking and consuming borsok means releasing the smell. When the borsok is ready, it's better than releasing the Kraken. Do you remember that movie, Marianne?
No.
Yeah.
What was that?
Most people don't. I don't remember. It was a remake of some movie. But there was a line in it that where the lead character says, release the Kraken, type of dragon thing.
Oh.
Oh, okay. That was boring.
So were you on Kraken when you were watching this movie?
You know what? I saw everything I needed to see in the trailer, and that was about it. So when the borsok is ready, it's scattered in puffy piles across a table. After someone recites verses from the Quran, the family prays for the deceased's well-being in the afterlife. Then they eat. So
that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
And actually, we have a picture of the table full of fried dough, which is just, frying and dough is something that makes me really happy. So I think this is pretty cool.
Like a donut. So
well,
what?
Yeah, but simpler.
Yeah, but it's simpler. Yeah, this is very specific. Yeah, and for something altogether different. So please go to our webpage for a link for the recipe and additional resources for this program. We hope you will follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and remember to rate and review this podcast. As a nonprofit, we are dependent on the kindness of strangers and always appreciate your donations. Please go to our webpage to donate in support of our work, www.everyonedies.org. That's every, the number one, dies.org. Marianne?
Thanks for that, Charlie. In our third half, we're going to talk about affirming life and maintaining hope as part of our series about the end of life. Two really important goals as caregivers is to help our loved ones live until they die and to encourage hope. First, we can help people live until they die by encouraging socialization, listening, being honest, and helping them finish any unfinished business. And you think, well, how do you you encourage socialization with someone who really, can't talk to you and can't tell you what you want? And when I was taking care of my mom, well, after she had this major stroke and she really couldn't talk, sometimes a word or two would pop up. But, I made sure that she was clean and dressed and in her favorite chair in the living room so that family, when they did come to see her, they saw her pretty much looking, at least, as she always had been. And they, that she smelled good and she looked actually pretty good, and that they could socialize with her, they could talk with her, she could sit around while people visited and that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by encouraging socialization. Being honest in terms of talking to them and, finding out if there's something that they need to do. Sometimes people are very concerned that they've left things undone, selling something or finishing a project or whatever. So what you want to do is find out, is there something that you need to do or that I can help you to do? By offering choices regarding routines, food, activities, we could promote continued independence and the ability to help maintain control over their lives. Especially as Americans, we're really into control and I'll make my own decisions. And and until the end of life, until that last breath, people want to be able to decide if they want this or they want that. So give choices as much as you can. Now, of course, the degree of independence depends on our loved one's energy level and their ability. Furthermore, wishes should be respected, even those wishes that are inconsistent with the family or the healthcare provider's values. Some people want to go to a hospice house or someplace else to die, even though the family, you want them to stay home with you. But,
Right.
For whatever reason, they may say, no, I really don't want to do that. I want to be in a different place. And, people remember, oh, this is where grandma died, or this is where dad died, or, my mom had this chair that would, I don't know if I ever told you this, Charlie, would, like stand you up,
Yeah.
It was an electric chair. And my sister was going to take that chair after my mom died. Well, my mom died in that chair. And one of our cousins' wives decided, had wanted something to remember mom by. So my sister gave her the chair. Because my sister didn't want it after my mom died in the chair.
Yeah.
So I'm not, suggesting you give things to people and not tell them, but the point being that let people have, make their own decisions about what they want. So a second thing is that hope is an important component of the emotional stages of dying and death. Kay Hirth suggested that hope was, and I'm going to give you her definition, an inner power that facilitates the transcendence of the present situation and enables a reality-based expectation of a brighter tomorrow for self or others. So what she's saying is transcendent, meaning, sort of above this earth, above this present situation that we're in. But she's also talking about it being reality-based, that something is going to be better tomorrow than it is today. It's been a factor in helping you and your loved ones continue through the difficult months and years leading up to the death. There's always been that sense of, well, maybe a cure will come, maybe a miracle will come. And I've had lots of patients, I live down in the South, who will talk about, maybe there'll be a miracle, or they're planning on a miracle. I've had people saying, I'm planning on God giving me a miracle. And the thing with miracles is that they're not in our control. So if you're asking God for a miracle, God may give you that miracle, but God will determine where and when that miracle happens. And maybe that miracle happens when you get to the afterlife. You don't control the miracles that come from God. So, I never, ever would say to somebody, well, for heaven's sake, that's not going to happen because we want to maintain hope. And what I say is, I hope that will happen for you. And I do. I hope that will happen for you. I don't need to interject, but it won't. That's not my job, and that's not your job as a family member. That's not your job as a friend. Your job is to say, I hope that will. If you're a praying person, you can say, I pray that will. But you can, and then if you want, you can say, but we don't really have control over our miracles, but I'll pray for you. And that's enough to help maintain a person's spirit and help that person to go on. As a person is dying, what they might hope for can change, but hope itself does not go away. And we never take away hope. Do not take away hope. That is what keeps people going. In the beginning, there may be hope for a miracle or for a complete cure. And as I said, it's not acceptable to take away the hope or to tell the family or patient that they need to be realistic. The idea that hope is reality-based suggests that it should relate to an achievable aim or goal rather than something that could be unattainable. So attainment and the goal setting that underpins it is a recurrent theme within hope. Goals provide structure and meaning to our loved ones, and hope provides the individual with the motivation and strength to continue to aim for and believe in these goals, even in the face of illness and hardship. An important element of supporting hope is in life-limiting illness is setting short-term goals and ensuring that these are realistic and achievable for our loved ones. Their hope for change from that of cure to hope for a full night's sleep can happen. People hope will change. What you're hoping for will change. So if you're having, issues with sleep or pain issues with sleep, people may say, I just really want a good night's sleep. And we can generally help people to get that. They might hope for a visit from an important person or hope for less pain. Persons with hope who have been found to live longer and have a greater quality of life than those who are hopeless. What's important is for us to be present for the person who's dying and support the feelings that are experiencing. Listening and caring for the loved one's needs is an important thing for us to do at this time of life. Now, when a person's dying, there are things that they, I hate to say should, but really should be able to count on. And if you look on the internet, you will find a variety of bills of rights for people who are dying. And I'm going to read you, and I don't know, maybe Sandy will put it on the website, the Dying Bill of Rights that we have used in our textbooks. It's from Sorrentino. And so here are the Dying Bill of Rights. I have the right to be treated as a human being until I die. So they are not, people who are dying, even if they're not able to communicate with us, are still people. And they, even if they're in a coma, I've many times go into the ICU and I'd say, to a comatose person, hi, I'm Dr. Matza, I'm the nurse practitioner here to see you. Yeah. And I've had family members look at me and say, he's in a coma. Look at him and say, yeah, I know he's in a coma, but I'm still going to introduce myself to him just like I'd introduce myself to anybody that I meet. I'm not going to ignore him. And so, and when I would do family meetings, about goals of care and that kind of thing, whenever it was possible, I'd say, let's do it around the person's bed. Because in the first place, for the family to see, okay, here's what we're dealing with. It's not some fantasy or memory in your brain. Right. This is, let's look at this reality. But it involves the person laying in the bed. And so we always assume that hearing's the last sense to go. And so involve them. They're still there. The second is I have the right to maintain a sense of hopefulness, however changing its focus may be. So we've talked about hope already today. I have the right to be cared for by those who can maintain a sense of hopefulness, however challenging that may be. And it can be hard when, somebody's coming to the end of life to maintain that sense of hopefulness, but it's important that we do. It's important that you as family and friends do that. I have the right to express my feelings, emotions about my approaching death in my own way. I have the right to participate in decisions concerning my care. It's very, I can't tell you how many times, Charlie, people have come in, waving, I'm their durable power of attorney. You have to talk to me. They can't make decisions. And it's like, as long as he can talk to me or she can talk to me, they make their own decisions. Your piece of paper there, that comes into effect when they are no longer able to speak for themselves.
Right.
So it's a great to have your durable power of attorney. It's absolutely essential because you never know when you're going to not be able to communicate for yourself. But as long as you can communicate for yourself, we're going to talk to you. I have the right to expect continued medical care and nursing attention, even though cure goals must be changed to comfort goals. Some people think that, well, they're on comfort care. Why are you doing this or why are you doing that? Well, even though, they're on comfort care, they still, if they're able to swallow and they want some Jell-O or something, they can have it. They can have, like if they get a urinary tract infection and it's causing pain or difficulty for them, we can treat that. If they say, yeah, I want that treated, this is uncomfortable and I want that treated, that's not going to change the course of their dying. It's going to change the course of how comfortable they are. I have the right not to die alone. And this is, I think, to my own value system, really important. I don't think anybody should die alone. And I've always talked about this and I've always said this, and I've been in situations where, in my family, somebody's dying and everybody's going to leave. And I've been in the situation where I'll say, well, I'll stay the night because I don't think that they should die alone. And get this kind of odd look, but I think it's important. I hope I don't die alone. And maybe it's, those times that I've been with somebody during the night so that they're not alone, maybe that's been my mitzvah. I don't know.
Yeah. I
have the right to be free from pain. And I believe that if the person wants to be free from pain, we have medicine so they can be free from pain. I always tell people I can make you free from pain, but I can't guarantee you're going to be awake because it might make you really sleepy and you go to sleep.
So
not dead, but asleep.
So, but with that, if someone is unconscious, is it possible? I mean, the person could be in pain, right? But if the person is unconscious, how would you know?
Well, what you see is like people like pick at their sheets or people squirm around in their bed.
Okay.
You get
Sure.
There are, those subtle signs. You can look at blood pressure. You can look at how rapidly they're breathing. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you look, you can see that they're not comfortable. And again, when in doubt, I'll give a little medicine and see, do they stop that kind of picking and,
right.
moving like that. And if they look more comfortable, then okay, then that was the right decision. Another right, I have my right to have my questions answered honestly. And that can be really difficult for family members to say, if your dad says, am I dying? Is for you to look at your dad and say, well, yes, you are. That's hard, but that's a gift itself. Honesty is a gift itself, and that kindness that goes with it. I have the right not to be deceived. I have the right to have help from and for my family accepting my death, and that's a big part of what hospice will help with, is the trained social workers that will not only help take care of the person who's dying, but takes care of the family. And part of hospice is that they will take care of the family for a year following the death in terms of grief and bereavement counseling.
Okay.
So that's another great benefit within hospice. I have the right to die in peace and dignity. And that dignity piece is, to be clean, to have their body covered, to, just not forget that there's a person that's
Right,
still there,
exactly. Yeah.
and that you work to maintain that. I have the right to maintain my individuality and not be judged for my decisions, which may be contrary to the belief of others. You might be in an entirely agnostic family, but have been raised Catholic and say, yeah, I really would like to have those last rites just in case.
And
Or you might say that, that, I don't know, whatever it is, if it's different than what the family wants, it doesn't matter because it's what the person who's dying wants.
exactly. And that's why, we often, point out, the need of a healthcare proxy, someone who will speak for you when you can't speak for yourself. And why then it's also important that that proxy is on the same page you are, and that they're not going to fold, under pressure. As you say, maybe the family has a totally different idea than what when the person who is dying. Yeah, you have to have someone there to advocate for you.
And that can be really hard. I've watched that dynamic way too many times where, you know, the the daughter from, we always call it the daughter from California because, like if you're working on the East Coast, it's like, okay, that daughter from California shows up and she has her own
Yeah.
thoughts about the whole thing, but she hasn't been there the whole time to know here's the decisions that mom or dad made. And, that's usually, and I'm talking generalizations, but it's a generalization I've seen way too many times. There's that one daughter who's always lived, like a mile from mom's house and has done everything for her. And then the daughter from California comes in and says, well, no, I don't want it this way. And the daughter from California, who's the durable power of attorney, or the daughter that lives down the street, says, well, I'm the durable power of attorney and this is what mom wanted. And then there's that whole generational family disagreement that it's hard for that daughter who's been there all along. She's exhausted and, to say to the other sister, no, and stand up to her. And I've seen many times where they don't stand up to her.
Yeah, and that's why it's important, about preparation, that everyone in the family is aware of the dying person's wishes. It'll be
well. There's awareness, Charlie, but then there's those last hour of living where they begin to doubt that that's the right thing to do because to them, they might not feel it's the right thing to do, but they're not the 85-year-old mom or whatever. Right. And so the whole dynamic begins to get shook up. And people begin to doubt, or people begin to say, oh my God, is this really happening? I can't tell you how many times in hospice when person's actively dying and the family's saying, what, really? Now? This came so soon. And it's like, yeah, well, it feels like it came too soon. Yeah, I see that, but this is where we are now. And, we have to remember all those things that your mom told us that she wanted or didn't want. I have the right to discuss and enlarge my religious and or spiritual experiences regardless of what they mean to others. I have the right to expect that the sanctity of the human body will be respected after death. And many times, again, when I worked in hospice, I would go to do a death pronouncement, and I'd go in and, if I was on call, it might be somebody I've never seen or met before. So I would go in the room and I'd say, hello, I'm Dr. Matzo. I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm here to, do your final care. And the families would look at me and they'd say, he's dead, right? And I'd say, yeah, I know he's dead, but I don't know what happens after death. I don't know if his spirit is still here in some way. I don't know. So because I don't know, I'm still going to introduce myself.
Right.
And there's also that lots of different beliefs about what happens after a person dies, but one is that to open the window a little bit so that their spirit could leave. And I would, crack the window a little bit. And again, the family would be like, "What are you doing?" It's like, well, there's this belief. I don't know how real it is, but, let's just crack the window in case they need to go where they're going.
Mm.
And, I'd always get that look, but I gave really good postmortem care and they forgave me for my idiosyncrasies. But, we don't know.
Yeah.
So if we don't know, let's just err on the side of over politeness and, cracking the window a little bit to let them go if that's what's needed to be done.
And it's also just nice because you're just, showing that respect, to the person who died. And you're setting an example that, the family can do what they, what they need to do, to take a moment to grieve. It's not necessary to suddenly, okay, well, gosh, now I need to call, Aunt June and let her know. It's like, no, take that time. Just sit there.
Yeah.
And, let it sink in.
And I think that's an important point, Charlie, is that, we are, as those of you who are listening who are the healthcare professionals, we are modeling for people. But, our whole goal here is to teach the general public. And so those of you who are listening, you can model for other people, for other death situations when you're there. You can say, well, this is what I learned, and because I don't know that it's right or wrong, I'll do it and err on the side of kindness. And lastly, I have the right to be cared for by caring, sensitive, knowledgeable people who will attempt to understand my needs and will be able to gain some satisfaction in helping me face my death. And that's really the greatest gift of all that we can give people, is that honest, kindness, loving, hopeful presence when people are facing the end of life. We say everybody's born, everybody's dies, but when you're born, we don't know what little babies know except that they, want to eat and pee, but we can give them that. But a person who's dying has been here for a little while, has a sense of what this life is, and has a sense of, I don't know what this next life is, or I don't know where I'm going. And whenever you don't know, there's that fear, there's that anxiety. And so to make it comfortable and hopeful until they get to wherever it is that we go when we die, that's a great gift that we can give to people.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have any questions about that, Charlie?
No, you explained it so well.
Wow, it's almost as though I'm a professional. So, white wolves, Charlie.
Yes.
This I want to hear.
So, in real life, a white wolf or Arctic wolf is a mammal of the Canidae family and a subspecies of the gray wolf. But here are some fun facts about fictitious topics. While wolves...
How do you know they're fictitious?
They might not be.
Yeah.
And there is an actual study from the University of Indiana about this.
See?
Yes.
See?
So, white wolves, and for our purposes, we will call them werewolves, along with dogs, are a vampire's natural enemies. Now, additionally, the white wolf is an alias for Bucky Barnes, close personal friend of Captain America, who Bucky tried to kill. Regardless, Cap never gave up on his friend. The white wolf is an alias for Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. Anui, or...
I never saw that show.
Really? Why not?
Not
just
one episode.
Why not?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Probably because I was working like 3 jobs and
oh, that little thing.
Didn't watch a whole lot of TV back then.
That little detail. Okay.
Did you watch it?
Yes, I did. At the time, I did not have HBO. Actually, I still don't have HBO. So what I would do, I waited until the entire season ended. I would go over to my friend's house and just binge watch like all the episodes in one sitting. It was wonderful. I enjoyed doing that very much.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, for our purposes, werewolves are one of the three main supernatural races of the world of darkness, which looks good on a resume. Wolves heal much faster than humans, are exceptionally hard to kill, and theoretically can live to 100, which might explain how my 96-year-old father turns 97 in December. Come to think of it, we don't see much of Dad in the daylight. Yeah, scary stuff. Werewolves in certain areas occupy graveyards and keep the vampire population down by digging up vampires. Vampires consider werewolves, quote, feral, chaotic things that, if not controlled right, can do serious damage. Offended by the remark that our group needs to be controlled right, Wiley E. Coyote, a spokesman for the Werewolf Defamation League, or WATL, responded with a terse bleep bleep my ass. As mentioned, a vampire's
Whoa.
natural enemies are wolves and dogs. However, a paper on the subject from the University of Indiana, and this thing does exist, we'll put a link to it on our website. So the paper points out that this might be an exaggeration. The author suggests that this belief comes from a misinterpretation of a common phenomena, the tendency of wolves and dogs to dig up and eat corpses that are neither buried deeply nor protected in some way, like by a casket. The study discusses a body that was half eaten by dogs because it had been buried carelessly. Now, it's common for animals to dig up bodies that have been buried superficially. They may even carry off parts of the body. It seems no one thought to dig a deeper hole, cover the corpse with rocks, maybe some duct tape, fill the hole. Yeah, problem solved. When wolves or dogs dig up a body, or a vampire, most likely they will dig up a limb, since it's easier to walk around with that in its mouth than the trunk of a body.
That's so true.
Yes.
Have you ever tried that? I mean, just getting your mouth open wide enough. It's just
yes, and with Thanksgiving coming up, if you have that drumstick, putting a drumstick in your mouth is different than putting a wing in your mouth. So, okay, important safety tip. So, werewolves are mortal and age just like humans, while vampires don't age and are immortal, except for some things that can kill them, like sunlight or disco. If you don't want to wait for a werewolf to grow old and age out, 3 to 5 rounds of silver bullets to the chest should do the trick. If you want something a little more challenging, cut out its heart or off with its head, and good luck doing that. Werewolves are shapeshifters who change from human to many forms, not unlike the Democrats' infrastructure package. To identify a werewolf in human form, note if the eyebrows meet at the bridge of the nose, and check for curved fingernails, low-set ears, and a swinging stride. I don't know, like swing jazz, swing band from the 1940s. I'm not sure what swinging stride means.
The first show I ever saw on Broadway was Frank Langella in Dracula.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. God, he was handsome.
Yes. Great actor. I've seen him on stage a few times. The man's amazing. Interaction between vampires and werewolves tend to be minimal, as vampires stay mostly in the city. Vampires are brutal and rarely pick up a check. On occasion, a werewolf, and don't ask me how, is turned into a vampire and referred to as an abomination. Werewolves and vampires are united in their hatred and look to kill it. I think that would make a great movie.
Well,
yeah,
you should shop that around.
I will keep.
Maybe Frank Langella is available to be like the grandfather vampire or something.
I'm going to make a note of that. Yes. Regarding the notion that
have your people call my people.
Okay. regarding the notion that white wolves/werewolves in certain areas occupy graveyards to keep down the vampire population. The Indiana study suggests that when a wolf is found digging up a corpse and the corpse is undecayed, which is code for vampire, then a werewolf is seen as an ally of villagers and could explain the sense of a link between werewolves and vampires. Now, in Eastern Europe, this link is taken to an extreme. A werewolf, after its death, becomes a vampire. The clustering of the three ideas, death, werewolf, and vampire, may simply be a byproduct. Death produces a corpse which attracts a wolf. And as Michael Corleone pointed out, it's nothing personal, it's just business. So with that,
That's great.
please stay tuned for the unending escapades of Everyone Dies, and thank you for listening. This is Charlie Navarrete, reminding you what my grandmother used to tell her children. Everyone wants to die, but no one wants to go to heaven. Happy birthday, Dad.
And I'm Marian Matzo, and we'll see you next week. Remember, friends don't let friends die alone, and every day is a gift. Goodbye.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.